Hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.
If you were to kind of if you were to kind of just put the vision in, like, you know how companies have like taglines, like if you were to put the vision in like a tagline, what would it be?
I call it the African imperative. It is that important, you know.
Yes, yes, that is so
And
true.
I often say uh, to like fellow Africans or people that are really doing what I'm doing or something similar. I see it as very important for it to be a corporate vision for all of us. You know, to say that we the Africans must, we will, and we shall develop this particular continent, the African continent. Imperative for all of us, not just me, for all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
The African imperative. Do you hear me? And the one thing that I love about the African imperative is the fact that you didn't go and say the African construction imperative or the African engineering imperative. It's just the African imperative for us all. So it's kind of just use whatever skill that you have. We're all in this war, bruh, and we are all trying to get to this common goal of creating infrastructure beyond what we see and what we know right now, because it is possible. And it's all a matter of just picking up your sword. Like you don't have to be an engineer to kind of push the African imperative, to push the African imperative forward. Like I come across a lot of people, like just in this industry, that just think about our industry in just the parameters of South Africa. And for me, that's scary, because then you're not thinking about, the end game and where we are trying to go. And it's not just us in South Africa, it's Africa in a whole, and pooling together our resources, everything. When we start thinking about our market and Africa, it's a different ball game. We start thinking we start pulling together resources that we might not necessarily have here in South Africa, but as a collective, we could do so much more. So it's great that we are not just, it's not the South African imperative. So I love that. I love that, Lyra. I love that.
But like in terms of just like design and what you do, I know nothing about not know nothing, but I mean like I can't design.
Okay.
So I don't know what your grievances might be with just the way that the technology is, in terms of just the person that is actually doing it, instead of just like upgrade. What do you feel about just design technology and where it's going? Do you think it's improving?
Definitely. I feel like it is improving. Unfortunately, the society that we find ourselves in, especially in the context of an ailing economy, a really contracting construction industry, and sort of the challenges that we have, it's not very easy to sort of innovate in such conditions, because everyone is just on survival mode. So more often than not, instead of, which is a constant conversation that I have, is how can we innovate, right? How can we innovate in every single thing that we do? In every single thing that we do, how do we maximize our resources to sort of get better at what we do, and also just pushing the boundaries of production and just problem solving, right? And I really feel like technology plays a very integral part in that, especially when it comes to the softwares that we use. I feel like more than anything, the prices of these particular softwares are insane at times, and most companies cannot afford it. That is, like, for me, the big thing, like just affording the software, access, basically, access to these softwares, but and also, like, very importantly, the sort of infrastructure that uses these particular softwares, like, it doesn't come cheap. So as much as you know, like we want to develop and we want to, you know, use technologies and we want to expand and we want more of our sort of colleagues to be using these platforms. The unfortunate thing is there are certain, you know, access barriers to access that we actually experience in the industry, you know. I have a lot of colleagues that I interact with from different countries, and one of the things that I'm always in awe of is how advanced they actually are. Like they use, you know, built information modeling, BIM. They use platforms that allow them to actually work together on specific projects with the different sort of stakeholders, plumbers, electricians, engineers, architects on a single project. And you find that, you know, with infrastructure like BIM, you know, innovation happens easily, production happens easily, and you know, it really becomes easy for things to happen because there is that collaboration that is really, really, really simplified. And I feel like, you know, even with things like centralized these Dropbox centralized cloud-based working, right? Like it really is a cutting edge thing when you look at the African context. Abroad, it's not really that big a deal, but around, you know, in these parts, in these parts, it's quite groundbreaking. Like I still bump into firms that really can't move forward. They still use physical filing, and for me, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But I think that the need is there. People see the need, but the access, as we spoke now, the access is quite a big impediment to that. And I could say the same thing about the various parts of the industry. You know, another thing that I can also mention is with automation, right? Automation in our industry abroad has become a very integral part of the construction industry, you know, cutting down labor costs, cutting down time delays. It cuts down quite a lot, you know, like, but unfortunately we live in a society where the construction industry is quite labor intensive. So, you know, the government will force companies to hire people instead of just hiring a TLB for that job, you know. As just a very oversimplified example. So I see the need, and I really believe that's the future. But in a society like ours, it really is going to take a lot of time.
But the thing is, at the same time, it's not really about, it is about the access, but it's also the numbers and the traction that we need to kind of create that alert, you know? So if we kind of, and that's why and that goes to why I started my channel, you know, like nobody, you know, there's always the stigma around people that, welcome to my YouTube channel. But you know, like my soul, I felt like it was out of my frustration. I felt the responsibility to equip at least someone to a certain level so they can at least have an opinion on something, for us to build that community of saying, okay, these are the people that are informed enough to have opinions on various sectors of our industry and various sectors of our market. Because if we don't give people access to that information, then we can't really get their buy-in in terms of just how we want to develop going forward. So most of the things that we need is traction, is the access, but also the action once that access has been given. So we can't just, you know, access and then we chill. Oh no, so now we've got access. What are we going to do? No. With that access has to be the action as well.
In order for you to be able to develop a vision, you need to be a person of vision, just generally. And you need to see beyond your circumstances, you know, and that's and you need to be exposed to certain to different types of things or experiences in order to get to a point where you have an opinion enough to have a vision of trying to change it.
For sure.
How is it? How is it that you feel like if you were to go back, if you were to see Uliro at, let's say, 18, right? 18, fresh out of high school. Now we're painting a different guy. Ne?
Yeah.
He's coming out of Supatela High School.
Yeah.
And he's really good at maths. He's really good at science, or what is it, that thing that called TD? He's really good at all these things that actually says that he would actually thrive in an industry like this. But obviously, that guy is Gadi, not Gadi, but like in the farm somewhere. Let's say the farm. He's in the farm somewhere, and he doesn't really have access to, you know what? Like, this is what, in as much as we have like education at school, sure, but it's not enough for people to for young kids or young kids. They're 18. Oh, you're a young adult when you're 18.
Yeah,
or you're still a kid.
Yeah, well, you consider it as an adult now, but you're still a kid,
young
honestly.
adult. Let's call them young adults. We don't want to offend them. Okay, young adult.
Yeah.
So now you're a young adult, but yes, you know that you are going into civil engineering and all of that, and you go into not high school, man. You go into varsity and you do it, but you don't really have the access to have a vision. What would you go back and tell that hero?
Okay, so I really believe, as much as we do not have necessarily access to a lot of information, we always know more or less what we want to do with our lives. Like, even if it's a little bit, even if it's just a little bit, we know more or less what we want to do with our lives. And I really believe that specific seed that each and every single one of us has inside of us is something that we should pursue. Because to believe it or not, like, when I actually went to varsity, I was actually confused about what I wanted to do. I sort of had a little bit of an idea, which is what, for me, I believe everyone has. I had a little bit of an idea, but I just needed a little bit of a push in the right direction. And
what was that push?
For me, that push was that hunger to try and find that out. Because the thing is, there won't always be a person like me to be there to guide you. For me,
that's so true.
For me, the most important thing was to follow my heart, like to follow what I believe that I was actually called to actually do. So
that's so true.
For me, I went and studied agriculture because it's part of the vision, but I knew that something was still lacking. Then I went into civil engineering.
Yeah.
As long as you can equip somebody with something to get them to a better place in moving the industry forward, then I'm all for it, bruh. Whether you be using TikToks, Instagram, your pictures, your words, your music, dude, just go about your trade. As long as we are kind of just fulfilling the African imperative towards a better sustainable future, I'm all for it. Next week we're gonna be coming on with a different type of guest. I'm also excited about them. Okay, I'm gonna give you just a little sneak. I'm gonna be very excited about each and every guest on this episode on Construction Interchange, because it was a very intentional way that I chose my guests, and it was based on certain things that I want us to touch on based on their expertise. So, one, I want access to information, not just for the people in the industry, but for other people to kind of understand us a little bit better as well. And more than anything, exposure to the people that are doing the groundwork. There are people, guys, that are teaching students. There are people who are creating avenues. There are people who are fighting stereotypes. There are people who are constantly putting their lives and livelihoods at risk in order to see a better building environment and a better construction market. And I want to shine light on those people, but more than anything, create conversations around what they are doing in order for us to create a tribe around that too. So I'm so glad that you guys could join us to Construction Interchange. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the voice, share the narrative, share the perspective to someone that it could help or create a door or access for. So thank you for coming on to this episode.